Hi tubers, tubets, various crazy people. Welcome back to the little channel. So today I thought I would kind of touch on the subject of minimalism and how it's impacted me and the different aspects and the different levels of minimalism. Sometimes people, at least I did, some would equate minimalism with denial of things and stuff, and living this very stark and kind of just super basic life. And I don't buy into that. I find it to be more of a lifestyle of priorities and how deep into it do you want to go or not. Back in 2005, I took a trip out of the country, went to a third world developing country, spent 2 months there, and came back a changed human being. And that was really all it took. I got out of my comfort zone, I got out of the normalcy, I got away from the TV, I got away from the commercials. I'm 66 years old, so I'm a baby boomer. And we are the most marketed to group of people that have ever walked the planet because we were so big, and I guess we still are. So everything that you saw was dedicated to us to spend our money. No matter what you did, you were told that in order to be successful, and in order to be happy, and in order to say you've arrived, if you will, was to have stuff. And it couldn't just be any kind of stuff. It had to be the stuff, if you know what I mean. I can remember a poster that was floating around during my generation, and it was a picture of this kind of pompous looking asshole wearing a tweed coat and riding boots, and he had his foot on the floorboard of a Rolls Royce. And the title of the poster, or the caption, was, "He who dies with the most toys wins." And that was actually pretty much what was ingrained, at least into my body or into my head, that in order for me to be a success, in order for me to have arrived, I needed to have a lot of stuff. I had to have more than the next guy. And if he had something, I needed to better deal it. And so I pretty much chased that for most of my adult life. Like I said, up until 2005. And it wasn't an immediate transformation. It was an immediate realization. And so realizing something and turning it into something are two different things completely. It's very difficult to drop old habits and old notions. And I like to think of it as an ongoing process. And I think now of minimalism in a much more dimensional, multi-dimensional way than I originally did. I originally equated it with stuff, and I still feel that way. I feel that the more stuff that you own, the more it owns you than you own it. Now, granted, there are things that I won't speak for you, that I personally need in my life. And I believe all people need good shelter. I think that you need good, nutritious food. And you think you need to have a safe, reliable way for transportation. So I'm not disrespecting cars or motorcycles or homes or dining out and having a nice meal at all. But for that to become the end-all, be-all of you, or of me rather, is wrong and leads to unhappiness in my life. So, many a time I have, in the past, purchased a home, purchased a TV, purchased a car, purchased this, purchased that, and at the time it was utter elation. In fact, I have an anecdotal kind of story that I'll tell you at the end of this video that I think really sums it up for you. So I always felt great. You know, wow, I've got a house. I'm a homeowner, the American dream, right? Oh, wow, I got a new car, and it's got all the whiz-bang toys on it, and this, that, the other. That's great, because I think I need to have it. Oh, and I can't have just a refrigerator. I've got to have the refrigerator with the ice maker in the front, and the water purifier, and all these other things. And so instead of spending $500, I'd spend $1,500, because I just had to have that. You know, I can't live without that thing in the front that I could put my glass in and get the ice to dispense. Stuff like that. So I started to dissolve from that and get away from it. And I finally reached a point in my life where I was no longer under the gun of providing for people. My kids had grown up. My second wife and I had divorced. We'd been split for some time. It was just me, myself, and I in this big-ass lonely house that I worked so hard to pay for. And every month paid for it and insured it and had the pool cleaned. And I would go to work and work my 10, 12, 14 hours, you know, with my one day off a week. And as the money came in, the money would go right back out. And that was not only to pay for the house, but to pay for the insurance and the maintenance, etc. So I started to dissolve on that. And what really was the turning point was when I was able to retire. And I knew that I would have a very, very small budget. I knew that I didn't want to work anymore. And so if you followed my channel at all, you know I moved over to the Philippines 4.5 years ago, and I've lived on $1,500 to $1,600 a month. The interesting thing is I have more money in the bank right now than when I first arrived here. And I had been working my ass off in the States, sometimes at a very high salary and sometimes at a very minimal salary, depending on what mode I was in or what the economy was in. But as I unloaded things and sold them and gave them away, it was almost every time I unloaded something and got rid of it, it was almost like the proverbial burden was being lifted off of my shoulders. I no longer have to worry about dropping that TV and breaking it if I move it. I don't have to insure that car. I don't have to put gas in it. I don't have to pay an HOA fee every month just for the privilege of living in a condominium complex. I no longer have to have chemicals and a pool service to come and clean and sparkle up the pool that I never swim in. It's much better just to rent, in my mind, and use it when I want to. Right now, I'm sitting at a resort with baby May. We've been saving up, or I've been saving up, putting away a few dollars, and May had wanted to always use a bathtub. She had never seen a bathtub. She's seen a bathtub, but she'd never sat in one. So I scourged the internet and found a place that had a bathtub, and that's where I brought her, and that's where I'm broadcasting from. So she's in there splashing around. Do we need to buy a bathtub? No. We just need to come and have the experience. Now, as I've unloaded, in fact, when I moved from my old apartment to my new apartment, to my new little house that we live in, at the exact same amount of rent, I refused to buy a TV because it didn't come with one. I figured a TV, I look at it more as my enemy than my friend. Because it's going to, like this video, it's going to show commercials, and it's going to ask you to buy something that you had no idea you needed. And the commercial, the one that you may or may not watch on this video, or the one that you watch on TV or hear on the radio, is just trying to extract your money from you, and therefore burden you with one more item. Sort of the second level of minimalism is once I got past the physical, once I got past the stuff, because I never owned the stuff. The stuff owned me. I had to take care of it. I had to maintain it, etc. And it was taking my time. It was taking my energy. And as that dissolved, I kind of came to a pinnacle of that, to where right now I live with a refrigerator and a bed and an air conditioner when I need it. And that's pretty much it. In a 3.5 or now it's a 4-year-old scooter that I bought when I first moved here. And I'll continue to drive it because guess what, boys and girls? It goes from point A to point B, the same as my $85,000 Mercedes did when I drove one of those in America. The rest is ego, okay? After you go from point A to point B, how you get there is important. You get on it, or getting there is important. How you get there is ego. Do you need to have a $50,000 car to go from your house to the supermarket? Or do you need a $1,500 scooter with a hook on the front where you just put your groceries on and you teeter home with baby May hanging on for dear life? I don't know. It's kind of more fun on the scooter, especially when it starts to rain. The second part of minimalism is that of self. The word that I'm starting to disdain more and more, and I hear it a lot from people, and I hear it out of my own mouth a lot, is the word I. I this, I that, I, me, me. As I lose things, that's great. Now I have a better feeling of self. And I'm trying to lose and minimalize now the importance of self. I'm trying to minimize me as being so important. And I'm trying to take on more responsibility for that which is around me in the moment. I've let go of things, and now it's time to let go of meism. It's not all about me. If I take on more responsibility, it's responsibility to try and just be a little bit better of a person than I was yesterday. That's my responsibility. I'm not responsible for making a payment. I'm responsible for my behavior and my actions and my words. Can I say a kind word instead of an unkind word? Can I hold my temper instead of losing it? Can I listen when someone is telling me a story and not try to one-up them with my story? Have you ever had that happen to you? I have. I've had a guy say, so what's going on in your life? And I'll say, well, you know what, I had a bad day. And I'll start to tell him, or I will tell him, what my bad day was like. And the very next words out of his mouth is, well, you think that was bad? Let me tell you what happened to me. That's nothing. So in other words, this guy just discounted my story. He didn't really listen. What was it all about? It was all about him. I found myself doing that. Someone says, man, you know, I went down so and did this and did that, and the clerk, and I go, yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, that's nothing. I'm trying to lose that. I'm trying to minimize that in my life. I'm trying to take on more responsibility as just being a human being. Take on the responsibility of more compassion, more understanding, less judgment, truthful, and I fall short of it every day, but I still aspire to it. I think it was Henry David Thoreau said, most men lead lives of quiet desperation, and it goes on with more. And Why do men lead lives of quiet desperation? I think the short answer is bills. You have to go to the job. You have to go to the arena. You have to make the appearance. You have to go to the Christmas party. You have to make a good impression. And it's not what you want to do. So there's this quiet desperation. If you eliminate the bills, and the way to eliminate the bills is to eliminate the expenditures. And as that happens, there is a transformation that's taken place in my own life. I'll tell you a quick anecdotal story, and then I'll end the video. Back in 1988, I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, due to a divorce, which I won't get into. I was fighting for custody of my son, and that's another story. In 1989, I bought my first house, and it had always been my dream, when I lived in California, to own a home. That's the American dream, right? And even though I was at that time making a six-figure salary, I couldn't afford a house. I couldn't save up enough money for a down payment. My credit was great, but believe it or not, I didn't qualify. I couldn't qualify. And that I could qualify, I wouldn't let my dog sleep in it. I mean, housing prices in California were stupid high at that time. And I imagine they are still now. But when I moved to Nevada, I was there less than a year and bought my first house for $80,000, because that's what the prices in Nevada were. And I even financed it, which I thought was fiscally responsible, for 15 years so I could get it over and done with. And it was a perfectly nice little house. It was a 2-story. It had the proverbial family room, dining room, kitchen, and 3 bedrooms upstairs, each with a bathroom and anything you could want. My kids were really super little, had a great big backyard. We built a playhouse outside made out of wood, a fort, if you would, because I had 3 boys, so they needed a fort, you know. And we walled it off where there hadn't been a wall, and we dug up areas and started gardens for the kids and did all this and did all that. And it was probably the proudest moment of my life. And and I lived in that house for a year or two, just, you know, and every time I looked at it, honest to God, I would just kind of like, oh, man, I've arrived. I've done it. You know, I did it. For 30 some odd years, I've wanted to own a home, and I've got it. And we kept decorating it and changing it and improving it and painting this and doing that. And then they came up with this friggin' thing in Vegas, out in Henderson, actually, I think it was called the Millionaire's Mile. And it was a part in Henderson. Henderson is a city that borders Las Vegas. They're right next to each other. And they had built 5 or 6 homes that were multi-million-dollar mansions, if you will, McMansions, if you will. And there was actually an entrance fee. I think it was $5 or something like that per person to go in and walk through these homes. And so I grabbed the old lady and I said, hey, let's go see these homes. Because I always liked looking at homes, get decorating ideas. And like I said, I was just so proud of myself for having this house. And she said, sure. So off we go. We drive out to Henderson. It's about 30 minutes away. And we find the place and we pay our entrance fee and we go in. And you had to start at house number 1. It was all very orderly. And these houses were $2, $3, $4, $5 million. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But man, oh man, you walked into these homes and it was, the floors weren't carpet, they were marble. And the swimming pool, one house had a swimming pool, and in the master bedroom was this rounded see-through plexiglass. And that was the wall in the master bedroom, was of the inside of the pool. So if someone dove into the pool and you were laying in bed in your bedroom, you could watch the person swimming I mean, that's how tricked out these houses were. Every bathroom was as big as my bedroom, and it had the jacuzzi tubs and the showers and all the accoutrements. And each house that you went into, or I went into, was just more tricked out than the last one. It had heated floors, and it was a smart house, so you just kind of like Siri almost, you did this, you push this button, and something would come up, and this massive theater would be there for you to watch your movies. It wasn't a TV, it was a friggin' movie theater. And on and on and on it went. So we looked at those houses and got in the car, and we drove home. And when I pulled into the driveway, I looked at my little house that I'd been so proud of, and I just wanted to burn it right to the ground. I was now in an actual state of depression because I didn't have what was down there on Millionaire's Mile. I hadn't arrived at all. I needed to have that. It was brighter, it was shinier, it was bigger, and it was better. Thank God. If I was to walk into that house today, I've reached a point in my life where I would feel sorry for the poor bastard that owned it. All right, kids, I'll see you in the next video.